I'm Mark Axinn. I'm chair of New York State LP, and like Diana's state, for example, Illinois, New York is a very, very difficult state to get ballot access. We've been trying for 42 years. We get on the ballot, but every single year we have to petition our way. Last summer, New York City was 3,500 signatures for mayor, 1,500 signatures for council. I mean, every single position we've had to petition our way on. I led petition drives in 2010 and 2012 in my state. We need 15,000 valid signatures to get on the ballot in New York, which really means 25 to 30. We had 33,000 4 years ago when we had a statewide group. So I have just a couple of general comments about petitioning and areas that I want to raise, and then I'm sure Bill and Paul are going to have different perspective. But I'm going to deal it from, not from the, I'm on the streets trying to get signatures, because that's a whole different talk, and I'm sure you guys know that one already. But I'm more, state chair, I'm the customer, I need to run a petition drive, how do I do it? So first thing, of course, is you got to plan in advance. You need money. You need money. You got to raise money at the local level, state, national. You need money. You need to talk to people. You need to let people know. You need to let people, particularly if you're asking people for money, you need to let them know why they should be contributing to you, why it's important to contribute to this ballot campaign. In New York, we are running a petition campaign starting on July 8th. To get our gubernatorial candidate and other statewide candidates on the ballot. And it's an off year. It's not a presidential election year. But this is the campaign that makes or breaks our ballot access. If we get 50,000 votes for governor, we have free ballot access for 4 years. The Green Party just did it 4 years ago, so they don't have to petition. So instead of my having to get 15,000 signatures, I might have to get 15 signatures. Basically, I could do it in an afternoon from people I know. So it's a very, very different thing. So you need money, you need a plan in advance, you need candidates. You need candidates to run at the top of the ticket, and you need candidates to run for local offices. And an important thing that I'm doing this year is I've convinced a lot of people to run for New York State Assembly or New York State Senate, positions where their signatures that they collect to get themselves on the ballot will also count for the statewide. So, for example, in the district where one of my vice chairs, Chris Pageant, who's the gentleman in the orange shirt over there, lives, we have somebody running, but his district covers a couple of different counties. Every signature he collects will also count towards our statewide campaign. You need volunteers. You need people to volunteer and go out on the streets. The candidates will have grandiose ideas and think, oh, it's very easy. Yeah, I can go get this. So we'll talk about volunteers in a moment. And of course, then you need paid petitioners too, because it can't be done all on volunteers. I can't get 35,000 signatures on volunteers. I can get 5,000. I can't get 35,000. So you promote it, you advertise, you train people. We do petitioning 101 at the Ukrainian East Restaurant in Manhattan, and we feed people pierogies and tell them what to do and send them out onto the streets, and we train people right then and there, and that'll be important. The petition period. In New York, we have 6 weeks starting on July 8th. It's a very short time in the middle of the summer. You start on July 8th. You don't wait until August 1st if the date starts July 8th. There are states that have already had 3 or 4 months or 6 months of petitioning. You start on the first day. It's very important. You line up multiple volunteers. You send emails out all across the state or all across your county or all across whatever district you're working in, and you keep reminding people. You line up multiple paid petitioners. Don't be dependent on just one guy or one group of people. You have people turn in petitions weekly. Even though it's not due until August 19th, I don't want to find out on August 18th that I'm 10,000 shy. So have them turn in weekly and then start sending it, like Brett was saying, send out very positive. This is great, we're doing really well, but we need to do a little more here or something like that. You know what? Don't stop asking for money. I need $40,000 for this summer. I cannot do a petition drive for that 40 grand, and I already have like 35 lined up. But I'm going to keep asking for money. and I'll get it. I know I'll get it, but I know also it's going to take time and trouble, and I've got to push people, and I've got to keep reminding them. So I will show them what we've done and tell them how close we are and send them reminders. I just sent out 300 letters last week to my state members, basically saying, hey, we're going into that petition drive. You've been great help in the past. What can you do now? So, here's a blank petition. Go out and get some signatures. And by the way, if you want to write a check or if you want to hit our donate page on our website, we really could use that. Okay, petitioning is all about rules. It's rules, rules, rules. In my state, we get challenged by Republicans usually. And the Republicans love to throw us out. You've got to know the rules. You've got to know your rules backwards and forwards. You cannot, in my state, I can't have out-of-state witnesses. Got to know your rules for witness, because if the witness, that's sometimes some states they call him the canvasser. If the person who's canvassing, the guy who's getting the signatures, doesn't qualify, then the whole page is thrown out. And if you just paid somebody from out of state, $8,000 to get you 4,000 signatures, and he doesn't qualify, forget it. So my paid petitioners, I have photocopies of their voter registrations. Make sure you have that voter registration. Make sure you know who can sign a petition, who can witness a petition, what challenges to expect. They challenge everything. We litigated in New York about 15 years ago on whether or not you had to still list the assembly district and election district that people live in. They had all sorts of rules. Make sure that people do not know how to fill out petitions. Make sure they sign their name and they tell you everything else, and you write it in for them because they're morons. But as the customer, as the person who is engaging people to go out and get signatures, you need to make sure that they don't subcontract it out to somebody who doesn't know what he's doing, that they know what they're doing, and they do the right thing. Check for validity, check for compliance with the rules, make sure, there's no such county as Manhattan, it's New York County, there's no such county as Brooklyn, it's Kings County, things like that. So, make sure that they know these things going in, because, one guy, if I get one guy and he's going to get me 1,000 signatures, I fill out the witness stuff, make photocopies, and just, have them sign originals, but it's all done properly. The address is there, the election district, whatever it might be. Handling the petitioners. Volunteers never, ever deliver as much as they say they will. They get burnt out. They're volunteers. We're all volunteers in this room. They get burnt out. They didn't realize how difficult it was. Keep praising them. Have a competition. I got 2 guys in Brooklyn, both of whom are retired. One was a computer science professor, and one was a mailman. And they are both retired, and I say to them, which one's going to get 500 first? And one of them goes out to lunch and gets 100 signatures. And I start posting on local websites how these 2 guys are competing with each other. And so make little fun competitions like that. Keep praising people, keep thanking them, and keep asking for more. That's your volunteers. And in my case, my volunteers are going to get me, 10,000 signatures, I hope. Paid petitioners. Paid petitioners, really, you have to watch the work very carefully. I see Diana nodding. You just went through it. You really have to watch the work very, very carefully. You got to agree on the fees up front. Most states, you pay per signature. In my state, that's illegal. I can't pay per signature, so we pay per hour. But, there's an understanding as to how many signatures we expect per hour. You want product, you want to pay for real product. Petitioners want to get paid immediately, right, Paulie? They don't want to, wait for a check.
Just a year or 2 later is fine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I get petitioners, I write a check and they go to my bank to cash it. They don't know why they're getting a check. They don't know why they have to give a social security number, some petitioners. There's a lot of different issues. So, but petitioners, you have them turn in weekly and they want to get paid on the spot. So be cognizant of that. That's a cash flow issue, but definitely be cognizant of that. And then the last thing that I'll talk about is that when you need to have a group of volunteers. I've got great guys up in Albany who will assemble the petitions themselves and make sure that they are turned into the Board of Elections the right way, you know, they have to be fastened with a proper fastener and not a paper clip, and a cover sheet, and rule 6.721. I'm a lawyer, so I'm used to a lot of stupid rules, and the election law in New York is replete with them. So make sure that you've got people who are processing the product and putting it organized the right way, so that not half the sheets are upside down or backwards or duplexed. If they can't be duplexed, then they only have to be simplex. Whatever the rules are, and every state has its own set of stupid rules, just make sure that you comply with them all. So you got to check for your compliance with the rules. You got to check to overcome challenges. I live in a challenged state. We have been challenged a lot. 4 years ago, the Republicans looked, I told you before, we need 15,000 valid on a statewide. We turned in 34,000 in the Warren Redpath campaign 4 years ago. And the Republicans went in, looked at the pile, decided the pile was so large they ignored it. So that's, something to think about, though, is that these other people are out there. Somebody pulls a stunt, says, let me have my wife sign. I'll take it. Let me sign for my wife. They're probably like, some plant out there to try to trap you or something. So be very careful of election fraud or any sort of thing. Nobody wants to go to jail for committing election fraud, and they would love to promote that. So the main points are to watch over the product, to keep praising people, to keep reminding people, I need it now, I need more now, keep thanking people for everything they're doing, and just try to keep the momentum going, so that you can get them to do that. Okay, so one of the most important people who you can work with if you're running a petition drive anywhere in the United States is Bill Redpath, because without Bill, petition drives would be dead in the water. So I'm sure Bill's got a couple of things, and Paul's got a couple of things, and then we'll all open it up. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Hi, I'm Bill Redpath. I am an at-large representative on the Libertarian National Committee. I have been a just went over 30-year member of the Libertarian Party, and I've been involved in petitioning efforts going back to 1988. I have not missed a Libertarian Party convention, starting with the Labor Day weekend 1987 convention in Seattle, where Ron Paul got the nomination for president. And back then, by the way, Labor Day 87? Yeah, going back, it ended with Labor Day 91. The 92 presidential ticket was nominated Labor Day 91, but that changed in 96, and we began nominating our presidential ticket in the same year. The reason it was done 14 months ahead of time was basically ballot access issues. But we finally came to the point where we overcame enough of those issues that we moved our nominations into the actual presidential nominating year. But when I went back to Virginia in 1987, after nominating Ron Paul, I said, okay, we've got to figure out how to get on the ballot. And so I went down to the library and actually looked it up in the Virginia Code. And I don't think you necessarily have to do that, but you do need, he's absolutely right, Mr. Axinn is absolutely right, you need to know the rules. And I would urge you to get written rules from your state board of elections and talk to your state board of elections. Most state board of elections officials are helpful. We do have some instances, and it varies from state to state, I want to say. We do have some states where it can be somewhat adversarial, where it's highly political and they're really not friendly to third parties. That, I think, is the exception, not the rule, fortunately. But I would start by going to the state board of elections. They might refer you to the local board of elections, but I think that's where you start in finding out all of the rules regarding a petition drive. Also, you've got me as a resource through the National Party. You've got Bob Johnston. Bob Johnston is chair of the Maryland Party. He's an independent contractor for the Libertarian National Committee. He has a set of rules, by the way, that is not, I would say, 100% complete, but he has a lot of data regarding the rules for petitioning in various states. Bob Johnston. Also, ballot-access.org, Richard Winger, who will be at this convention. In fact, he's going to, well, I don't know if I should say it or not. I won't say it, just in case it's not supposed to. But in any event, he is at this convention. Richard Winger is from San Francisco. He is the ballot access expert in the United States. And he has a newsletter that I highly recommend. It's very inexpensive. It's maybe $15 a year. Ballot Access News. Also, all of that's on ballot-access.org. The past issues, he blogs every day, several stories a day about ballot access or election issues, and I commend it to you. In running a petition drive, I would say, I would recommend that you have in your state or for any given drive, you have one person at the top. There is one person who is the ultimate repository of the signatures, or they all ought to funnel to one place, ultimately. You've got to have your signatures funnel to one place. You should have one person who's in charge. Now, one person can't do it by him or herself. Maybe if it's 125 signatures, 250 signatures, they can. But if you're talking a 15,000 or even 1,000 or 2,000 signature petition drive, you're obviously going to need help. But I do think there should be a chain of command going up to a single person. I would also say that it really benefits things if that person is sort of a type A personality. You don't want somebody who's really laid back, in my opinion, running your petition drive. And people who know me know I'm not really laid back, especially when it comes to petition drives. But seriously, it's serious business, and you've got to stay on top of it. And unfortunately, volunteers don't come through like they think they do most of the time. But I will tell you, some people will lie to you. It just happened in Virginia, this drive. I mean, somebody, a libertarian in Virginia was hired by a libertarian candidate in Virginia to go get 400 signatures. This person said, I'll do 400 signatures for you if you pay me $800. I don't know whether the $800 was paid or not, but those 400 signatures never materialized, even though the person said, oh, I've got the signatures. It was 100, 200, 300. I got my 400 sigs. Oh yeah, where are they? Well, I turned him into the State Board of Elections directly. Why he would do that, I don't know. Well, you know what? Those signatures never existed. He never got them. He lied. I've had a state, in the past, in 1992, we rescued one state and had to go to court to get on the ballot because a state chair of the Libertarian Party lied to me about the number of signatures that state had. It was a total fabrication. The signatures weren't there. We sent people in to get signatures after the deadline, sued to get on the ballot. We won. We won in court, and it was a blessing and frankly at least a small miracle. So you want people, if you're running a petition drive, you want people to report their numbers to you. It's important to know who has what. All right. Make sure people are reporting numbers to you and emphasize to them how important it is. But as important is to get those signatures in as soon as possible. Don't wait until the last minute. Don't have a 3-month petition drive. Oh, he says he's got 482 signatures, and now we're into the last week. Where are those signatures? No. Get those signatures in ahead of time. Make sure they exist, and take a good look at the signatures that come in. I would say that the volunteers are, like I said, a very tough thing. I'll tell you what, if somebody can figure out how to motivate the volunteers to go out and get petition signatures, I will kiss their bare ass in public in front of the Libertarian Party convention. Seriously, I've been trying to for over a quarter century to figure out how to get volunteers out. I recently had a situation in Virginia where I arranged to do some petitioning one night, some door-to-door petitioning with someone, and we arranged in the afternoon. I'm coming down. I'll give you progress reports as I'm coming down. And then I called that person on my way down 3 times, went into voicemail every time. Person never called me back that evening. Okay? It just happens that way sometimes. The person really didn't want to go out and petition, but couldn't bring himself or herself to say, I don't want to go out and petition with you, Bill. But it would have been better if that person had just said that. I would also get pledges from people. That is, get people to if they're going to volunteer, how many signatures can you do? How many signatures can you do? And it's important to take the full measure of a petition drive. It's important to understand what you're up against. I have witnessed sometimes some magical thinking where I think people don't realize how difficult it is to do that. And if I'm available to talk, Bob Johnston is available to talk. I think that it's very important on the front end to figure out, I don't want to hear, I've heard in the past, we'll just go to the gay pride parade and get signatures. I mean, there's nothing about the gay pride, but that is not a plan. We're just going to hit it hard on primary day. We'll get our signatures then. That is not a plan. That is not a realistic plan to get things done. You really got to sit down and not give in to magical thinking, but figure out what it's going to take. If it's going to take more than volunteers, then you try ahead of time, before the gun even sounds. You need to line up your paid petitioners that are not easy to come by. They're not easy to come by, but you need to figure out, even before the drive starts, whether you're going to need paid petitioners and realistically. And I would also say one other thing. I mean, we had too many problems in 2012 in the Libertarian Party with petitioning with states with 2,000 or fewer valid signatures. States that need 2,000 or fewer valid signatures really should be able to do the petition drive themselves. And that's in something like that. It's a shame that we had a number of states where we had to send in paid petitioners. The Libertarian National Committee had to subsidize New Jersey in 2012. 800 valid signatures. 800 valid signatures to get the Gary Johnson, Jim Gray ticket on the ballot in New Jersey, and the Libertarian Party of New Jersey could not do that on their own. And that hurts. That's what we need to change in this party to at least, where we get enough people out there. If 20 people got 100 valid signatures each, you'd have 2,000 valid signatures. So that's the way we need to go. Places to petition, by the way, I would say that on public property, certainly. Unfortunately, you cannot petition on postal property. Okay, you can petition on a public sidewalk in front of a post office, but you cannot petition on postal property. It's a crazy regulation. It's been litigated. The rule is that you can solicit someone on postal property, but they can't sign your petition on postal property. So you'd have to leave the property to have them sign the petition. And it's insane, and it's on my to-do list to write a letter to the trustees of the United States Postal Service. I don't think I'm going to get them to change the policy, but I want to alert them to how crazy their policy is. But Department of Motor Vehicles, libraries, I go door to door sometimes, even though there are more non-soliciting. I've definitely noticed in the past 20 years more people putting no soliciting signs near their front door or on their front door than was the case 20 years ago. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Frankel, and then we'll have Q&A if time allows. So thanks very much.
So going to continue on locations. You can get stores. I think not a lot of stores will say no. So there's a question of whether you ask them first. Some people say it's easier to get forgiveness than permission. I personally have not found that to be the case. For me, usually when I don't ask them, they're not apt to give me forgiveness afterwards. You will. It helps to know your rights. You will get a lot of times ignorant cops and security guards who will tell you can't be places where there's clear legal precedents saying that you do have the right to be there on government property, going door to door and stuff like that. Door to door, I found personally is slower. You might get like maybe 10 an hour, and then only during the evenings and weekends. But it's better if you're doing a gerrymandered district, because generally few people will know what state legislative district they're in, or congressional district or something like that. And unless you're in a place where you're getting almost everyone from the same district, door-to-door might actually be better then, because that's where you get things like what was mentioned earlier, I believe, by Brett, where they had 54% validity in Colorado. I'm betting that's probably because they got a lot of people that were out of district. And don't assume somebody is a registered voter because they look like a solid citizen. Ask everyone, regardless of how they are dressed or any of that. As far as how you dress, I personally say dress for comfort, not for style, because you're going to be out there for a long time, most likely on your feet in all kinds of weather. You're not going to want to be weighed down, and I personally have not found that dressing well helps. I've tried wearing a suit a couple of times. It made absolutely no difference. If you're in a place where everybody's in a suit, dress a little bit nicer, button-down shirt and jeans. But
people in suits don't sign our petitions, I found out.
yeah,
Not at all. But that's just
let's see. I recommend having more than one clipboard. If you can, you may want to use. I get a coroplast cut into 9x12 if I'm doing an 8.5x11 petition, or a 9x15 if it's an 8.5x14. Some people like cardboard and rubber bands. I like store-bought clips and coroplast. You can use regular clipboards, but it helps to have several of them so you can get several people to sign at the same time. Don't do too many though, because you want to make sure they fill them out right. If you're having 8 different people sign at the same time, chances are several of them will screw it up. In fact, after they start signing, there's kind of an awkward silence a lot of the cases, so what I like to do is just start telling them how to fill it out correctly, because so many people just mess it up all the time. As far as what you tell people, it doesn't matter that much. It's kind of like just whatever you're comfortable with. If you get comfortable with your pitch, that's probably more important than the actual words you use. You could say, do you believe that people should be allowed to vote for whatever party they want, not just Democrats or Republicans? Or sometimes I like to say, we need X number of thousand signatures to get on the ballot. Would you help us out? A lot of times you may want to start by asking if they're a registered voter in the district that you're petitioning, just because you may get a lot of people that aren't, so you want to weed those people out first before they start wasting your time. And also, if somebody starts wasting your time, a lot of times these will be people that like you. Sometimes they'll be people that don't like you. It doesn't matter. You're missing more people because you're spending a lot of time trying to convince one person, or trying to get one person that likes you and just responding to them. There's all kinds of other people walking by, so I try not to be completely rude to them, but what I will do is, as soon as another person walks by, I'll ask them. And the person can hang around for a little bit and continue to talk to you, but in a few minutes they'll get the idea that you're busy. What else can I say? You don't want to be too aggressive, because it'll get you kicked out of places, but you don't want to be too laid back either, because people will just ignore you and keep walking. Just find a style that works for you. That's the important thing. It's not going to be the same for everyone. Some people will feel more confident if they're better dressed. Personally, I don't care. Some people will do better if they spend a little more time individually, one-on-one with people. Sometimes it depends on just kind of the crowd you're doing or where you go. If you're at a festival, it's not going to be the same style as in front of a grocery store. Expect the unexpected. There's always things that come up, whether it's getting run out of places, weather, car problems, health problems, speaking of which. Anytime you can, whether you're running a petition drive or just getting signatures, start as early as you possibly can. Front load it as much as you can. Don't leave the bulk until the end, because that's when things go absolutely haywire. Petitioners will charge you more. If you're a petitioner, you'll find yourself scrambling around more. Murphy's Law, that's when you'll get kicked out of a location, or that's when a downpour will happen. That's when your car will break down. I don't know why that happens, but it just does. So leave yourself plenty of extra time. don't rely on what you think you know. And anytime you think you know something, try to double check whenever possible, because a lot of times I'll find myself relying on what I believe I know, and for some reason I turn out to be wrong. I don't know why. But people will give you tips on where to go petition. Sometimes those tips will be good, sometimes not. So, it's up to you how much of that you try. A lot of times people that don't petition think something is good, but it's absolutely not. But sometimes you get really good information that way. Event listings, there's the free weekly papers, usually anywhere you go. We'll have event listings. Some events are better than others. As far as how far to press your rights in cases where you have a legal right and you're being told you don't, that's up to you. Usually what I'll do is I'll tell them that I will leave if they direct me to leave if it's a cop, but I try to get their name and whatever information, and then go deal with their superior officers after I remove myself from the scene. It's harder to do when you're traveling around the country, because if you're dealing with a legal situation like an arrest, you may have to come back to court multiple times. It's not easy to do. If you're living someplace, you're there all the time, it might be easier. So there have been people that have won court settlements, won substantial amounts of money because their rights were violated. But I don't generally recommend it. If nothing else, you're wasting time that you could be using petitioning if you're sitting in jail for a weekend. It's best to have some legal paperwork, show them, try to convince them nicely, get their name, and then if you have to leave, it's better than wasting a lot of time on it. Even if they end up telling you okay, you might end up spending 3 hours trying to sort it out that you could put to better use somewhere else. On the other hand, if you run off the first time somebody says something, even if it's completely blatantly ridiculous, you could end up getting chased around all over the place and wasting a lot of your time that way. So just try to find a golden mean as far as that goes. Really, a lot of things, it depends on the particular situation. How much time you have, how many signatures are needed, whether they're statewide, countywide, district, or what they are. The particular rules as far as who can sign, who can petition. There's a lot of different rules in different states. Some states that have a right to be in front of stores, some states where it's easier to get permission from stores for one reason or another. So every situation is different. Actually, if I can, I'd like to petition everyone here as well, because there's no way to think of all the things that need to be thought about. So I'd like to start some discussion. Let's talk about this on a continuing basis. So I'll send this around if anybody wants to fill it out with whatever contact information you'd like to provide.
Great. And why don't we do Q&A?
Yep.